All right. One of the biggest keys to success in this class is seeking help when you need it. One of the worst things you can do in any college class is to suffer in silence when you need help. How do you get that help? Don't go to the local chemistry professor. They're not being paid to help you. Don't go to a local tutor. You don't need to spend extra money to get them to help you. You're paying me to help you. Let me do it. Oh, I'm not sure if I've introduced myself to this point, but in case I haven't, my name is Dr. Kelly. I'm located in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. However, trying to get in contact with me is like trying to hit a moving target in terms of the telephone. Not only that, but telephone is a lousy way to seek help in chemistry. The reason a telephone is a really lousy way to get help in chemistry is because a lot of what you're wanting to communicate with me about is a math problem or problem-based, right? And if we're talking on the phone, you can't see my paper and I can't see yours. Therefore, since we can't see each other's paper over the phone, there's no point in really calling me. Not only that, but I'm usually at meetings or in class, or I have a student in my office. Phones, I'm rarely able to pick it up logistically. Not only that, but phone messages are just really difficult for me to get off my phone. So if you call me and leave me a message on the phone, it may be 3 weeks before you get a phone call back from me. So don't bother calling me. So how do you get help? I mean, after all, Dr. Kelly, you just said it was important to seek help and that you only wanted us to seek help from you, but you just went on this long rigmarole about how we're not supposed to call you. I'm sensing a contradictory message here. You'd be right, except for the fact that I have a question and help message board that I check at least once a day, Monday through Friday. Let's go to the question and help message board. This is your course shell or a course shell similar to it. And you see a button labeled questions and help. Click that. And it takes you to a message board. To ask me a question, what you do is you click Create Thread. And then you give your question a subject. One of the hard things to do in an online class is to communicate effectively. Remember, I can't read your mind. I'm not psychic. I can't read your facial expressions because you're not there in front of me. Also, I check these message boards once a day at least, Monday through Friday. So I don't really have the opportunity to ask a follow-up question and keep things moving fast. Therefore, it's important that you ask your questions specifically and precisely so that I can answer them. There's good questions and there are bad questions. Let's go through that real quickly. Bad question. An example of a bad question would be students will often ask me a question phrased along the lines of, I don't understand calorimetry, or I don't understand electron configuration, or I don't understand equilibrium. I hear that question and I say, they don't understand calorimetry? Why, I gave the most awesome lecture in the history of mankind since the Sermon on the Mount over calorimetry. I mean, it was just a glorious thing. If they listened to my lecture on calorimetry, then obviously they would understand it. So if they don't understand calorimetry, they didn't listen to my lecture. So I would respond to this question by providing them with a link to my lecture. How do you think you as the student are going to respond to my providing you with a link to my lecture? You're going to be saying there, that son of a motherless goat. I ask him a question and he provides me with a link to the same stupid lecture that I didn't understand the first time? How lazy is that son of a gun, right? So if you ask me, I don't understand calorimetry, I'm mad at you thinking you didn't listen to my lectures, and you're mad at me thinking I'm lazy and not answering your question. Not good. So how should the student have asked the question? This student thinks that they don't understand calorimetry because of something that's happened. In other words, something has provoked them into thinking that they don't understand calorimetry. 90% of the time, that's a homework problem or an example in the lecture. Therefore, instead of saying, I don't understand calorimetry, a good question would be, I can't figure out how to work problem 6.55 to 6.62 over calorimetry in the homework. Can you help? Why is that a good question, telling me the student doesn't understand calorimetry, instead of just saying I don't understand calorimetry? The reason this is a good question compared to this question is this question tells me the student doesn't understand calorimetry, but it tells me where their lack of understanding in terms of calorimetry comes, right? Okay, they're not able to work 6.55 to 6.62. So they understand the specific heat equation, they understand the first law of thermodynamics, but they're having trouble with two-part systems in terms of thermodynamics, right? Or two-part systems in terms of calorimetry. It helps me as the instructor narrow down where your not understanding is occurring. Do you see what I'm saying? Not only that, but by asking about these homework problems, you're forcing me, the instructor, to talk about something I haven't talked about before. In other words, you're provoking a new conversation instead of asking me to repeat an old one. Another example of a good question is if you're not understanding something, usually that's provoked by one of two reasons. Either it's a homework problem or an example. Another example of a good question would be in example 6.1 of the lecture. Where did your S value come from? Where did the value for the X variable come from? Right? You're asking me about something in the lecture. You're asking me to clarify a specific slide in the lecture or a specific example in the lecture instead of just basically throwing your hands up at me, right? Saying I don't understand calorimetry, you're inviting me to repeat what I've already told you. Asking me these two questions, you're forcing me to tell you something new, or you're forcing me to re-explain a specific part of my lecture. Asking a good question is really, really important. Now, this question and help message board is really awesome, because in addition to allowing you to ask me questions, and it also holds me accountable. I've promised you in writing in the syllabus that I will answer this question help message board at least once a day, Monday through Friday. If you look over here, all posts are dated and time-stamped. That means that whenever you post a question, a date and a timestamp goes there. When I reply to that question, a date and a timestamp goes up. So, If I'm not answering your questions the next day, the same day, or the next day, you get to say, Dr. Kelly, you're not doing your job, and it's your fault I'm failing the course, right? You're holding me accountable. Accountability is a two-way street in this course. Not only am I holding you accountable, but you're holding me accountable. How awesome is that? I mean, how many instructors give you a documentable way of holding them accountable? I do, because I want to help you guys. Another purpose of this question help message board is to break the feeling of isolation. One of the bad things about online classes is when you're struggling with something, you can feel that you're the only one who's struggling with it. Chances are, if you're struggling with a homework problem or you're struggling with an example in the lecture, 6 to 12 other people in the class are struggling with that same question or that same issue. So when you post a question, and the best post can often be just the number of a homework problem, 6.52a. If you make your subjects good, like 6.52a, what you'll discover is when you look at the number of people who viewed the post, you'll discover that a lot of your classmates have seen, oh, hey, they're having issues with 6.52. I wonder what Dr. Kelly said. Or you'll often discover that you'll post a question you have over 6.52 and somebody will say, oh man, I was able to work 6.52. Here's how I did it, but I am completely lost on 6.53. Right? So this question help message board may or may not start a conversation with your classmates, but at the very least it breaks the feeling of isolation. I recommend to you, even if you don't post a question on a given day, that you still check the question help message board to read the questions other students have posted and to read my responses to them. Even if students don't comment and say, hey, I had the same question you did or something like that, one of the best classes I ever taught in terms of students getting A's, I had a student in that class ask me close to 50 questions during the course of the semester. No one else asked a question that entire semester, which wasn't good. I wish more people had asked questions. However, at the end of the semester, I had 10 students in the class email me and say, thanks student X for me, thanks student X for me, her questions were awesome, right? I wish they'd emailed her to give her the encouragement. But it's really important that you use this question help message board, not just because it's a documentable way of communicating with me, but it helps break that feeling of isolation, right? There's a big difference between saying, oh my word, I am struggling with calorimetry. What is wrong with me? Why am I having so much trouble with calorimetry? And saying, oh, I'm having trouble with calorimetry. Everybody else is. It's natural. I just need to do what everybody else is doing and stick to it and work my way through it, right? Big psychological difference. So that's why it's really important that you, when you ask me a question, you post on the question help message board. Another thing. Email. Here's my email address. I answer my email daily, just like I do the question help message board Monday through Friday. However, about 10% of emails sent to me disappear. I have no idea where they go. I don't know if the email boogeyman snatches them off the cable on the way to and from, if Skynet is rerouting them, or what's going on. For that reason, what you should do is whenever you send me an email, click Create Thread, click Sent Email in the subject. You don't have to write a message. Just on the subject, say Sent Email, and click Submit. This does a couple things. First, you've put me on the clock, right? I'm checking this once a day, Monday through Friday. So I have to respond to your sent email message the same day or the next day, right? And I will. I'll post replied. By posting that message saying send email, you've put me on the clock, and you've also told me to look for your email. How I organize my work on a daily basis is the first thing I do is I come and check those question and help message boards. And I work them in chronological order, you know, first post to first person to post. The oldest post gets answered first, right? And I use those question help message boards to go through my inbox. I open my inbox, I've got 40 to 50 emails, right? Which emails get answered first are based on the question and help message board. So your place in the queue gets moved up faster if you post that sent email. Also, let's say you send me an email and it's one of those 10% that gets lost or doesn't get to me. Instead of having you sitting there cursing me saying, I sent that no good Dr. Kelly an email and he hasn't answered it. What a jerk. What a jerk. Why hasn't he answered my email? And me sitting there at home twiddling my thumb saying, I wonder why no one's emailed me. I wonder why no one's emailed me. Not realizing you'd emailed me and I hadn't gotten it. If for some reason your email doesn't reach me, I can respond to you and say, hey, send me an email again. Most common reason emails don't get to me is people misspell my email address. Because Ellis Island messed up the spelling of my name. But at any rate, I digress. Use of those question help message boards is really, really important. Make sure that whenever you send me an email you post, please, please use them to ask questions. I want to help you. I'm here to help you. The secret to passing this class is seeking help from me when you need it. Please, please, please ask me questions. All right, that's it. Beep.